All right. Let's see what we got here. Yo, everybody. Happy Monday. See what we got in here. We got Sean, we got Benjamin, we got Jordan, we got Donna, Sebastian, and James. Awesome. We got the cool crew here. That means we're going to be able to do some pretty sweet stuff. How's everybody doing? Yeah, new shirt. You're going to be seeing lots of new shirts here soon. All right. Guys, I've been a whirlwind today. So, I think I'm just going to hop right into this so that I can keep the ball rolling. I got to look at a place virtually after this that I'm thinking about moving to. Like, I'm moving to like another state. So, my realtor agent or whatever, he's going to be Skyping me with like video from that new place, see if we want it or not. So, yeah. All right, let's get into this. Let's see if I can. Oh, crap. I didn't write the intro. Let's see if I can. What am I talking about? I'm talking about decluttering your life on an internal and an external level today. So, all right. This may take a take or two. Let's see. There we go. Loosened up. Let's do this. Welcome to Universal Man, where we turn your flight into fight so that you can master yourself and conquer your goals. My name is Mark Kwebbett, and I am here to help you sharpen your masculine edge so that you can cut through the resistance holding you back from becoming a man that you admire. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about decluttering your life, both on a psychological and a practical material level. Because if you don't regularly go through a process of purging out the dead weight in your life and replacing it with new good stuff, well, you're just going to get bogged down and you're going to slow down, you're going to feel crappy. And so I'm going to talk about cutting all that stuff out that needs to be cut out so that you can feel better and live better. That actually went pretty good. So I think for a lot of us, a large amount of our psychological activity is unconscious, okay? Especially when we were younger. We just kind of do things, right? Without thinking about them super hard. And this is normal, right? This is normal. Not everybody comes out this fully conscious person, right? So we have a lot of stuff that we go through and we do without thinking. And what this amounts to often is a bunch of habits or beliefs or even material possessions that may not really serve you too much. We just kind of accumulate things. We accumulate these thoughts. We accumulate these habits. We accumulate these things, and they just kind of build up. And if we're not being intentional about how we're going through our life and what we're doing, then we just end up sort of packed to the brim, okay? And, you know, an extreme example would be someone who's kind of like a hoarder, okay? There's someone who just kind of compulsively grabs stuff and fills their, house with it. And, if you've ever seen that show Hoarders, you can see how serious that gets. Now, all of us probably have some of that in the material realm to some degree. Everyone's got a weakness for something that they maybe get too much of, and they got a little bit of clutter there. But it also happens on the internal level as well. And so the things that I've identified that seem to create a decent amount of clutter in your life, clutter being defined as things that don't really serve you well that you've accumulated unconsciously, are like inherited habits. All right. So to give you an example of one that I've dealt with is, I'm one of 5 kids. Okay. And so growing up, the purchasing plan for almost everything was quantity over quality. Okay. Because we got 5 kids to feed, to clothe, to, get possessions to. So it was always just like cheap and volume. Okay. But the thing was, I internalized this belief. And what that led to was me engaging in a purchasing plan that was maybe more sensible for a family of 7 people. Applying it to just myself, well, that didn't work out so well. I just ended up with a bunch of stuff that I didn't like, that didn't serve too much of a purpose. It was low quality, it would break, and so I'd have to buy multiples of pretty much everything. In fact, the reason why I'm doing this video in the first place is because I'm cleaning out my clothes closet at the moment, because I realized that this habit has continued to follow me. So, one thing is these inherited habits, and this can happen to, like, if you accumulate a lot of negative baggage too. Like if you got a lot of bad memories and stuff like that, and you're keeping them around in your brain, and they're just taking up a lot of emotional space, that can really hold you back. But sometimes, it's not this big, deep, thing in your past. Sometimes we accumulate clutter simply from our circumstances. So, for example, you might have accumulated a Big Mac habit just because you just actually live across the street from a McDonald's or something like that. And, it's super convenient. On the way home from work, you stop in, you grab a burger, and before you know it, it's like, it's a daily ritual. And you picked up this essentially clutter without really recognizing, without even thinking about it. And now you got this thing that's adding a little extra weight onto your stomach and not necessarily making your life any better. And sometimes, it even just comes from hobbies. Everyone's got stuff that they're interested in. Like, I've got a bunch of like music equipment, and I've got other kinds of like video games and things like that. And it can be a thing where, I just buy something because it's there and it's like lines up with my interest. But I never, if you don't take the time to sit down and ask yourself, is this thing really good for me? Do I really want this? Well, you might just end up with a whole bunch of stuff you're not even using. Sometimes I'll get this way with books. I'll just buy a bunch of books because they all sound awesome. And I don't even have enough time to get around to read all of them. And it creates kind of this psychological weight. I swear it's there. Because sometimes you don't notice it in the moment, but if you take the time to actually clean it out, all of a sudden you find yourself, so much cleaner, so much lighter. It feels so good to shed that stuff. And that's really the solution here, is that you need to regularly have a conscious triage, purge, and replace in your life. And it needs to happen with your material possessions as well as with your habits and your routines. Every once in a while, you need to tune in and be like, all right, let's take inventory here. How much stuff am I keeping around that's serving me well? And how much of it that I'm keeping around just is taking up space and clogging me up and, making my life feel more cluttered? If you can regularly do this, then you're going to be feeling a million times better. And also, you're going to have more space in your life, more energy for the things that do matter, that do serve you. So when you recognize this and, you take it on, I think I see probably two big mistakes or two big challenges that people will encounter. And I know this because I've dealt with this myself. So the first issue is trying to take on too much change, trying to be too drastic and intense with what you're trying to accomplish. So, like, for example, if you're a straight up hoarder, trying to go from that to being a pure material minimalist, that's going to be a huge jump. That's going to be incredibly difficult for you to do. And it's going to take like an insane amount of work and effort. And chances are that'll just be too overwhelming. And so what you want to do there is you want to kind of scale it back a little bit. All right. You want to, instead of maybe going from hoarder to minimalist, maybe it just starts with you going around and throwing away your garbage, throwing away the stuff that's, that's obviously not useful, and you get rid of that. Okay. Obviously, if you're a legitimate hoarder, there's a whole psychological component to it. But, I'm talking about someone who's generally messy and kind of a pack rat. Okay. Just start with the big stuff. All right. And this is kind of the core idea here, is that you got to do the next best step. Okay. If you can't go too big, don't want to go too small. You just want to try and find that next best step. And if you stop and you think about it for more than like 5 to 10 minutes, you can almost always identify one good step to take. Another example would be, you can't go from being going on a purely junk food diet to being like a raw vegan. All right. I don't even know why you would want to be a raw vegan in the first place, but it'd be very difficult to make that kind of transition. So, start with maybe just a simple thing of like, all right, I'm going to make sure I have at least a lean protein and a vegetable every day. Start there. Okay. That's a good one. If you take on too much, it's going to be overwhelming. You're not going to do it. Or if you take on too little, then I don't know, it probably is not going to have enough psychological incentive. It's not going to really be valuable enough. You're not going to feel enough reward from it to really keep it going. So it's like finding that middle spot, that what I would call the next right step or the next best step. Okay. And so one more example here would be, if you're completely disorganized with your time, you've accumulated a lot of just kind of random whirling in your life, just a lot of internet surfing, just cluttered down by that, to go from that to someone who has literally every single minute of their day planned and meticulously ordered, not going to work. So maybe just start with like every day writing down the 3 major things you want to get done. Okay. That's a good next best step. And this kind of follows what you might call the slight edge principle. If you check out that book, The Slight Edge by can't remember his name, but yeah, the book's called The Slight Edge. Very good. But it's basically like, the big obstacles to properly engaging in this purge and replace are that one, you take on too much and overwhelm yourself, or two, you just get too overwhelmed and don't do anything, right? So it's do something and do it well. And this is kind of inspired in a lot of ways by Jordan Peterson's clean your room idea. And you probably already noticed that, is that, Jordan Peterson, he's become famous for telling people to clean their room. And the whole idea behind that is that, hey, you start with these little changes. You start with that immediate area of chaos that you're willing to step into and do something for it. All right. And so you got to look at the pain points in your life. Look at the areas in your life that are in disarray. If it's too painful, if it's like too much of a big issue, well, maybe that's not the place to start. Maybe you start with a smaller area, okay? And you clean that up. And once you clean that up, you're going to feel a little bit better. You're going to clear out your head, and it's going to make you level up a little bit in life. And the magical thing that happens is if you just keep taking this next best step, you're automatically going to be leveled up through layers of sophistication and complexity, okay? So for example, another thing that I've been doing lately is I've reworked my fitness routine, all right? And I've been lifting for about 8 years at this point. So me cleaning up my fitness routine is going to look far more complicated than someone who's taken their first steps into fitness. I've got like this full big, breakdown template of like, a 6-day split and that kind of thing, okay? And I can do that because I can build on the knowledge and experience that I've already built up, okay? And so a lot of people, basically what I'm saying is that once you get a certain level of sufficiency in an area, a certain level of understanding, a certain level of clarity and structure, then adding that next layer is trivial in a sense. It's not that big of a deal. But if you try to take too many steps at once, that's where, you're going to fall flat on your face. So I guess my challenge to you in this video is to first triage your life. All right. Look at the areas in your life, both on the internal and the external level. Look at your material possessions, and then also look at your habits. All right. And ask yourself, where is there some clutter that's gumming up my success, that's gumming up my happiness, my freedom, my, all that kind of stuff. And then just figure out what's that next best step. Where can I take things? I can clean something up, throw away something old, and bring in something new. And, you might be surprised at how simple making yourself feel a lot better really is. Okay. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this valuable. As always, I love to hear your feedback and your insights. Let me know in the comments below where you're going to start cleaning up your life. All right. So with that, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one. What is up, guys? So let's see what we got here. Sean says, habits are harder just because they are sometimes so deeply ingrained in the autopilot of the brain. How do we declutter thoughts and reactions? Well, thoughts and reactions are, I don't know if that would be the clutter so much as it would be the beliefs that lead to the thoughts and the reactions. So it's like if you find a particular amount of thought and reaction, like a similar kind of thought and reaction that comes up and it doesn't serve you, well, you want to trace that back to the belief that causes that thought and reaction to fire, okay? And that would be the dead weight there, and that's what you would want to change. And so the way you would change that is by probably journaling would be the easiest way. You don't want to try and do too many of these at once, but if you can find like a big belief, so maybe it's the belief that I need someone else's affirmation, okay? And what you realize that triggers is a lot of fear and anxiety around other people. So it's like you would keep a journal and focus specifically on that day to day. Be like, okay, yeah, so my this old reaction was triggered today when I walked up to the water cooler and people were talking, and then when I got there, they stopped talking, and then I panicked and I just like walked away really awkward. So that would be a place where, you could write that down and focus on purging that belief. And you can ask yourself, how would I respond better next time? Maybe I would just be like, hey, what's up? Or did I miss the joke? Or, identify how you would behave differently next time, and that would be kind of the fork in the road. You want to identify the fork in the road and continuously reflect on it, and then eventually you're going to have more options in your life. You're going to see, oh wow, here's an opportunity where I can go back into that old way of acting, or I can take that new way. And as long as you've identified both of them, then you have a choice. But when it stays in this kind of unconscious flow state, that's when you don't really have much of a choice. So that's why the journaling is really useful. Andrea says, anti-raw vegan? Come on, bro. Do you even science? I can't tell if that's serious or not, but I've heard a lot of arguments against raw veganism. But regardless, I love meat, so. Jordan asks, would this apply for porn? Going from a 3 times a day user to just giving it up completely. What are your thoughts on gradually weaning off of it? So I think what ends up happening with porn is that is what most people do in practicality. They end up gradually weaning themselves off of it, meaning that their space between relapses increases. Okay, but I don't think that's what you should ever aim for, because ultimately, if you really truly want to get free from porn, you have to internalize the idea of living completely free from it. Okay, and adopting that mentality is something that actually needs to be practiced and reinforced. So basically, you always want to go for living completely clean. Be like, you know what, I'm done. And you got to practice owning that and actually applying that idea. If that's how you want to truly live, then if you're going to relapse and basically the decrease in frequency is kind of going to happen naturally, unless, hey, you're successful, right? So it's like always aim for the top with quitting porn. That's what I would say is aim for the absolute place you want to be. But then, if your body or your mind or whatever needs some kind of tapering effect, well, chances are you're going to relapse a few times, but the frequency is going to massively decrease to the point where you get to the other side. Problem with people who try to consciously or try to intentionally wean themselves off and they don't go all the way is that they never quit. They just go through waves of using porn more frequently and less frequently because they never actually internalize and fully accept a life without porn. So start practicing that from the very beginning, because in a way it's almost different to consciously accept living a porn-free life versus actually implementing it. And so the acceptance can take a while. So practice that from the very beginning. Sebastian asks, any tips on jealousy? I have a huge crush on this girl, and literally every time I see her, even just talking to other boys, I'm getting crazily jealous. That's normal. I mean, that's normal, man. You're not weird for that. But the big thing would be trying to adjust the mindset. So, I mean, have you let her know that you like her? Have you tried to pursue her at all? Have you done anything like that? Because, what is going on there is that your brain is probably doing a couple of different things. I don't know exactly what you're doing because I haven't actually talked to you, but there's a good chance that when you see her talking to other guys, you're taking that as a reflection of you not being good enough. And so it's like you need to affirm yourself there. That's the big thing, is recognizing that your worth is not dependent upon whether you get attention from her or not. But the other thing is, if the most authentic you would be interacting with her more, trying to go on dates with her or whatever, then her talking to other guys might just be reminding you that you're not living up to your own standards, that you're not actually being a guy that you like. So be that guy, right? It can be tough to get over jealousy. I used to be significantly more jealous. And the thing that honestly helped me overcome it was to just sincerely commit to being the best dude I possibly could. I was just like, all right, I'm going to be the best dude around. And if she doesn't like me, well, then that's her loss. And once you can really honestly step into that mindset and truly become someone that you like and do that work, well, then it's powerful because you can step into that. It's like, yeah, all right, well, I know how good I am. If you don't see it, well, sucks to be you. So that's one way to look at it. Benjamin makes a really good point. He says, having tried the wean off strategy for porn, you basically teach yourself to look forward to the next chance you can get to act out. It's counterproductive. That's really good. Really good point. Sean says, by the way, I just finished reading King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and would love to hear more from you on the archetypes in a future live session or video. He saw the 4 that I posted. All great. Awesome. Well, did you see the one I did on the Jester and the Priest? That one I did actually more recently, and it's kind of like I'm combining archetypes in that one to create what I call the Jester and the Priest archetype. I thought that was pretty interesting, so you might want to check that one out. But yeah, there's probably a lot more I could do on archetypes, and I'm sure I will into the future. Dude, what? Can you be more specific about which circumstances you're talking about? Donna says, what is one thing you wish you knew before attempting to break a habit? I guess it depends on the habit. But I think one of the things I wish I knew in the past was how powerful the social component of things is, and like how much the social component really makes habit change easier. So if you look at my video about 3 major motivation hacks, that's what I talk about in there. I talk about like the power of accountability, the power of competition and inspiration. And then I also talk about, what was the final one? I forgot the other one, but basically it's like we're social creatures and you need to learn how to press your social buttons inside of your head to enhance your motivation. And if I had known that in the past, I could have, been like, put my goals out there to people, been held accountable, and done way better than just like sitting and, stewing and whirling in my own head, and then also indulging myself. And that's also why I created the Vanguard, which is the community for Universal Men that I'm running through Patreon. So we've been seeing a lot of great stuff in there where guys have been posting their, their goals, and they've been having breakthroughs and all kinds of awesome stuff. It's really pretty sweet. So check that out if you're interested in it. Okay, so dude, what was saying? So how to get excited by life's challenges and difficulties. Honestly, for me, the thing that's worked for me is what I would call the challenger mindset. And it's this idea of like when something comes up and it says, hey, you're not gonna be able to do this, or hey, you're not good enough, or hey, whatever, like whatever kind of negativity is being thrown at me, is just like mentally like viewing that thing as an enemy and saying, no, I'm not going to listen to you. I'm going to take you on and I'm going to change this. I'm going to do this anyway, despite what you say, even if that you that I'm talking to is a voice inside of myself. And I don't know, I've always naturally been a rather aggressive person, and learning how to use that aggression in a positive way has been incredibly powerful for me. So it's like, when stuff gets hard for me, obviously I still have the immediate reaction that most people do, which is like, oh, I don't want it to be hard, or oh, this sucks. And that kind of victim mentality. But the thing I've tried to really train myself on is to be like, bring it on. Bring it on. I can take it. I can handle it. And you'll be kind of blown away at what you can actually handle when you start practicing that and you start being steadfast in your pursuit of things. So learn how to say bring it on to life, even when it gets hard. And that's how you live to your fullest, I think. That's living on the front lines of life at that point. So, once you step into that challenge mentality, I think your body rewards you, your emotionality rewards you. It gives you energy, it gives you focus, because your fight circuitry is different from your flight circuitry. It's a different neurochemical space. And that's the heart of this project, turn your flight into fight. And so learning how to look at those challenges and say, hey, yeah, bring it on. That's a big deal. Jordan Stackhouse says, do you know any decent books that discuss the topic of minimalism? I did have one. What was it called? Maybe I have it on my... Can't remember the name of it. Dang, I can't remember. It was like written by... I can't remember. It was like written by a woman for like people like decluttering their homes or something like that. And the basically I can't remember if it was her or not. Never mind. All right. So here's what I'll give you. There's a bunch of books out there on minimalism. Go to Amazon and just search the reviews. But the big tip that I got that was really helpful for me to cut out a bunch of stuff it was the rule of like, when you're going through all the things of whether or not you should keep it or not, you ask yourself, have I used this thing within the last year? Can it be replaced for under $100 and under 45 minutes or under an hour? And it's like, if it's like yes to all, if it's like I haven't used it in a year and it's easily replaceable essentially, then just get rid of it. So I think that's a pretty good rule of thumb. It's like, if you're not using the thing and you can easily replace it if you do happen to ever need it again, then just get rid of it. And this is great for people who struggle to get rid of things because they're always thinking like, well, in this like weird circumstance, this would be incredibly useful. Well, it's like, what's the likelihood of that circumstance really coming up? And learning how to employ that can be very, very beneficial. And then the other thing for decluttering stuff or minimalism is to crap, something popped up and it broke my train of thought. The other thing was have a system. Have a system of how you want to I'm losing my train of thought here. What am I trying to say? Organization. My point was going to be about organization. It's like, if you're having trouble organizing stuff, the biggest thing that you can do is take a few minutes to actually plan out how you want to organize stuff. So often people, they're like, oh, I got all this stuff and then they stop because you actually have to think about organization. And that was one of the things that has always kind of kept me cluttered, was that I didn't take the time to come up with a system for where things go. But that's different than actual minimalism. So the philosophy of minimalism, lots of books on that, probably even lots of good YouTube videos on it too. Techville says, any books you or others here know on habits, on how to set them up, keep them going, and that sort of stuff? The Slight Edge is a great one. I've heard good things about the book Mini Habits. I don't think of any other ones off the top of my head. I mean, like, habit change books are like, there's like millions of them. But the Slight Edge was probably the one that I thought was the best written. Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start. And then if you want to like understand, well, people always like The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, but I didn't think that was super practical. He just kind of like talks about how habits work a little bit. So I wouldn't go with that one first. I would go with the Slight Edge. All right, my dudes, any other questions or any other comments, anything like that? Because I'm going to have to go here some kind of soon. Sean says, what are the most valuable organization categories to create for those who are having that, where do I begin moment of change? That's a good question. Where do you spend the most of your time? Where do you spend most of your time and energy? You want to have that place cleaned up first. So if you spend 90% of your time in your office and your office is a mess, then start with your office, okay? Start there. And then from there, after you get that cleaned up, then you can start expanding to other places. But basically, it's like, follow the trail of energy. Wherever the bulk of your energy is, that's where you should focus stuff. Because if you clean up something where you spend a lot of time, well, then the net result, the benefit you get from cleaning up that space is, magnified by the amount of time you're in it, right? So if you're only dealing with something like your attic, for example, or your basement, like if you never go there, it doesn't really matter if that's kind of a mess, right? It's because you're never there, and so you don't have to experience the psychological effects of being in it. Jordan says, do you think deleting your Facebook account is a good plan to stop cluttering up your time? Well, it could be. If that's kind of like your compulsive thing, like most people today, they have some kind of compulsive thing that they do electronically. Some people, it's like they check the news. Some people check Twitter. Some people check Facebook. And you have to ask yourself, does Facebook enhance your life or does it hurt it? Are you using Facebook in a way that is aligned? Is there a way that you want to use Facebook? So it's like, the best case is that you can just use Facebook in a way that only serves you. So maybe you use it to keep track, like maybe you use it to talk to close friends or something like that. But if you're just using it to look at like random crap that's like not useful to you, well then, and that's all you use it for, well then yeah, cut it out. But if you use that as your main source of, following, people like the people you follow, like maybe there's some inspiring people that you follow on Facebook and that's how you stay in contact with them. Well, maybe you should keep Facebook around, but moderate the time. Be like, okay, I only do it in the evening after I have, my chores done or whatever. Jordan says 13 months with no cell phone. Is that what you did? Crap, man, that's intense. Really intense. Yeah, I don't know if I would use social media if I wasn't doing this work, because it's definitely easy to get sucked into it. If I was going to go like no phone, I'd probably actually have to change my business model. So I'm probably going to keep the phone around. But the fact that you're able to do that, that's pretty sick, man. Congrats. All right, everybody, I'm going to get out of here because I got to prep for that call I was telling you about. But thank you so much for tuning in. I really love it when you guys are here and, I get to do this stuff with you. So, keep it up. Keep doing you guys, like keep aiming high, live on the front lines of life, and you're going to be happy, even if it's hard, even if it's challenging, even if you experience failures, you're going to be happy that you're pushing yourself. So keep at it, my friends. Stay sharp.